Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Sagicor Life supports Clarendon Police in crime fighting. Sagicor Life Jamaica has donated a 65-inch television to the Clarendon Police Division to assist in its crime fighting and community surveillance efforts. The equipment will help with the monitoring of multiple cameras across the town from their police station and will increase the police effectiveness. Senior Superintendent of Police SS Blake Ford Miller, commanding officer for the Clarendon Division, said the television has been beneficial in assisting in the management of the division's vehicle fleet and his officers' efficiency in responding to incidents. The television has been placed in our operations room, which is monitored on a 24-hour basis by our operations representative, and as a result of that, we are now able to better identify or locate where our units are at all times. This better helps to inform us, especially as it relates to whenever a crime happens, he explained. Denton Atkins, financial advisor with Sagicor Life Jamaica, who was present at the official handover, said the company was pleased to have been able to assist the police officers and thanked them for reaching out when they needed help. Sagicor is a company that strives to enhance the lives of people in the communities in which it operates, and this is just one of our latest efforts to advance this vision. As a life and health insurance provider for police personnel across the island, we have a close working relationship with the organization, and we are happy that the Jamaica Constabulary Force reached out to us for assistance with this project, he said. The Clarendon Police Division has seen an uptick in criminal activities in recent times, which resulted in the police increased efforts to combat the upsurge. Closed-circuit television cameras were installed across the parish as part of the Jamaica Eye initiative to better monitor and respond to illegal activities in the town. According to SSP Miller, the installation of the television in the operations room at the station has been integral in the team's intelligence strategy to assist citizens in distress. He said, "We know exactly which unit to call when needed because we know exactly where they are." The commanding officer also expressed gratitude to Sagicor and shared his expectation for a continued partnership between the two entities. Speeding and pedestrians walking in the road among factors responsible for most fatal crashes RSU. There are 3 factors that are responsible for more than half of the 403 fatal motor vehicle crashes that have claimed 450 lives in Jamaica up to Thursday, December 16, according to the Road Safety Unit RSU. According to the unit, proceeding at excess speed with no regard to road controls was responsible for 118 deaths so far this year. 91 persons died in 2020 and 105 in 2019 following crashes caused by speeding. Also, the RSU said 95 people have died this year as a result of failing to keep to the near left of the road or to proper traffic lane, while 83 died in 2020 and 92 in 2019 for the similar traffic violation. The third main cause of road fatalities relates to pedestrians walking or standing in the road. There have been 35 such deaths recorded so far this year, while there were 31 and 49 such fatalities in 2020 and 2019 respectively. Some 89 pedestrians have been killed on the nation's road this year. This compares to 86 killed in 2020 and 106 who perished during the corresponding period in 2019. The RSU is urging drivers to give the gifts of safety this Christmas by cutting speed and adhering to the rules of the road. More than 74% of Jamaicans remain unvaccinated against COVID-19. Despite the availability of more than 1 million doses of vaccines, more than 74% of the Jamaican population remains unvaccinated against COVID-19. This is one of the lowest vaccination rates in the entire Caribbean region and leaves the population vulnerable to periodic outbreaks of COVID-19, especially as new variants like the fast-spreading Omicron emerged. Jamaica's precarious position was revealed in Parliament last week during a presentation by the Minister of Health and Wellness on the Joint Select Committee on the COVID-19 pandemic and related matters. The PowerPoint presentation showed that only 19.9% of the population had received a first dose or have been fully vaccinated with one of the approved vaccines up to December 15. A closer look at the numbers showed that among the 19.9%, some 5.7% had received a first dose only. This means that a worrying 74.4% of the total population have not received any form of protection against the coronavirus. Among parishes, Kingston and St. Andrew has most coverage with 26.9% overall vaccinated, of which 7.9% had received a first dose. Overall, 65.1% of the corporate area remains vulnerable. The parish of St. James comes next with 22.9% vaccination rate, of which 6.8% is made of those who have received a first dose. Clarendon at 15.9%, St. Catherine 14.6%, Portland 14.1%, and St. Thomas 10.9% are the least vaccinated parishes. Meanwhile, a 35.4% persons in the 70 to 79 age group have the highest level of vaccination. They are closely followed by the 60 to 69 age group at 35.1%, those 50 to 59 at 30.9%, 40 to 49 at 25.5%, and those 80 and over at 24.8%. The least vaccinated groups are those 20 to 29 at 17.7%, 30 to 39 at 20%, and teenagers and adolescents 12 to 19 at 20.2%. With these low levels of vaccination, Jamaica is on course to miss its target of 65% vaccinated by March 2022. Sangster's travelers to benefit from US 100M expansion projects. Minister of Transport and Mining Robert Montague has said that passengers departing from Sangster International Airport over the Christmas holidays will begin to benefit from the completion of aspects of the over US $100 million master plan expansion works. A lot of the changes will cut in by Friday of next week, especially for those departing. We will have more shops and it will be a lot more comfortable for persons who are departing our shores. We are going to give them our last bit of Jamaica before they leave, Montague announced. I was very satisfied with the quality of work of the supervising engineers, the contractors and the managing team here. They are doing an excellent job, world-class standards. We should all be proud in Jamaica that our people can be doing such high-class work. According to Shane Monroe, Chief Executive Officer of MBJ, Operators of Sangster International Airport, the expansion of the departure section of the facility, which got underway last year during the down period brought on by COVID-19, should be fully completed during the first quarter of 2022. We are expanding the departures retail area that project commenced last year. We are opening that project now during December, and it will be fully completed by March of 2022, Monroe stated. Both Montague and Monroe were addressing members of the media on Thursday, following a tour of the airport where Montague inspected aspects of the massive expansion program underway at the facility. They will be doing some expansion work on putting in additional shops and expanding the food court at arrivals, so people who come to pick up their persons will have better and a more comfortable wait while you wait on your loved ones, the transport minister added. Meanwhile, Monroe disclosed that the planned extension of the runway is projected for completion by the first quarter of next year. We have various projects that are currently in progress. We have the runway extension project. Those enabling works included the realignment of Kent Avenue, and that will be completed in the first part of 2022. And one other major project we're also engaged in is the solar. That project commenced last year. We commissioned the first 1 megawatt of solar PV at the airport. And we have a second phase of 2 megawatt. That project will have all the installations completed by the second quarter of 2022. Montague lauded Monroe and his team for the energy efficiency aspect of the project. Also on the tour were Member of Parliament for St. James Central, Roy Clark, and CEO of Airport Authority of Jamaica, R.D. Dietrichs. Headless body of unidentified man found in Gregory Park. The headless body of an unidentified man was found in an area known as Mexico in Gregory Park, Portmore, St. Catherine on Saturday. The deceased is of dark complexion, slim build, and is about 5 feet 11 inches. He was clad in a pair of jeans at the time of his death. Reports reaching reporters are that the police were summoned to the area about 10 a.m. on Saturday after residents heard somebody screaming for help. The headless body of the man was later found on the arrival of the officers. The Portmore police are carrying out investigations into the beheading. A 48-hour curfew has since been imposed in sections of the Violent Play community, the flare-up of which has claimed a number of lives over the past several weeks and months. The curfew began at 6 p.m. on Saturday, December 18, and will remain in effect until 6 p.m. on Monday, December 20th. Person of interest in murder of female school teacher charged with murder of a taxi man who was reportedly her former lover. Domain Robinson, the man who last week turned himself into the St. Elizabeth Police after being listed as a person of interest, has been charged with murder and conspiracy to commit murder in connection with the killing of a taxi driver 2 years ago. Robinson is the relative of a man who is also being investigated in connection with the murder of school teacher Chanel Smith. Miss Smith, 28, was shot and killed 2 weeks ago outside the Sandybank Infant School in St. Elizabeth by one of two men who opened fire at her as she was about to enter the schoolyard. After Smith was killed, the police listed Domain Robinson as a person of interest in connection with her murder. The investigation took a turn when Robinson was charged in connection with a July 22, 2019 incident where it was reported that about 6:15 p.m., 41-year-old taxi operator Owen Domain Day was gunned down in Southfield, St. Elizabeth. The deceased taxi operator was reportedly parked in the town square when two men approached him. One of them reportedly pulled a firearm and shot him several times to the chest. He was rushed to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. 28-year-old Robinson, who is also known as Domain Miles or Lizard, was charged following an interview in the presence of his attorney. His court date is being arranged. The police say Robinson remains in custody as they continue their investigation into another case. Reporters understand that police are theorizing that Robinson was involved in the murder of the taxi driver and may have committed the act on behalf of a relative. The taxi driver was reportedly alleged to have been in a relationship with Miss Smith, which reportedly angered the relative of Robinson. Favour Defence Ministry as Principal slaps poor leadership. Education Minister Favour Williams rubbish comments made by William Knibb Memorial High School Principal Linfern Wright, which categorized her stewardship as the portfolio as poor, declaring that she and her team have done a commendable job despite the ongoing pandemic. I'd love for him to state the specifics that he is not satisfied with, but I know that when I look back at the efforts of the Education Ministry, they are commendable, Williams noted during an interview following the handover of $20 million check from the Universal Service Fund to the Public Broadcasting Corporation of Jamaica. The funding is to support the creation of a second educational channel dedicated to delivering programming to Jamaicans on a 24-hour basis. Williams, who took the reins of the portfolio in September last year, said Herculean efforts have been made to keep students on track following the suspension of face-to-face classes in favor of online modality. The minister said in addition to efforts made to acquire and distribute laptops and tablets to teachers and students, lessons were broadcast on television and radio to minimize the disruption that would have ensued after Jamaica confirmed its first COVID-19 case in March last year. Yes, there have been hurdles. It hasn't been perfect, but we worked with what we had and we did, in my estimation, an excellent job of keeping our education system going despite the pandemic in which we have had to live, said Williams. Wright, the president of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, gave the Andrew Holness administration a failing grade for what he said was its failure to properly manage the education sector. Our Ministry of Education is the worst I have seen it, and we must not be afraid to call it out in the interest of our country, said Wright in a post on Facebook. It is mired in corruption, poor leadership, mindless policies, and a deaf top tier. Education is on a slippery slope. Wright said the leadership of the ministry has reached crisis proportions and had become equally distressing. The JAPPS head said it was time to challenge the leadership of the ministry, who continue to be impressed with themselves, while many who know better are aghast at the leadership weighing down on the education ministry. Wright said also that there has been a disconnect among principals and ministry personnel, pointing to the Sixth Form Pathways program, which he argued is moot. He labeled as jokes ideas such as the twinning of schools and the Sixth Form Pathways program, which are mooted and mindless, recited the principals. He said that he was hoping that the recommendations from the Professor Orlando Patterson-chaired Jamaica Education Transformation Commission, which are being examined by the Cabinet, will bring forth initiatives of real change for the nation's children. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.